sure that even if you've played the harp for not a very long time, you've already experienced some situations when you really wanted to practice, but you couldn't. Maybe you were traveling and couldn't take your harp with you. As we know, these are not very portable instruments, most of them. Or perhaps you experienced some sort of pain or injury which prevented you from playing. In any of those situations, mental practice can come very handy. What is mental practice? The classic definition tells us that this is rehearsing physical skill without performing any physical movements, so going through the motions using only your mind. I think that this definition could be a bit broader and include any activity that you perform away from the instrument in order to make the time spent in the practice room more efficient. I'm going to give you a few examples of that. To make the most of this lesson, make sure you download the free PDF that you can find in the description of this video. Chances are that you have already done some mental practice, even if you are not quite aware of that. Every time you plan what you're going to do in your next practice session, every time you think about what you're going to do when you will be practicing while being away from the instrument, you're contributing to making the time spent with the instrument a lot better. So carry on doing that on a regular basis. If you can, try also writing down some notes after every practice session to be able to refer back to them. If you want to start working with a practice notebook on a regular basis, do check out my episode on that, where I'm giving you some advice where to start. Start by simply looking at the score without trying to play anything. Imagine that you're simply reading the music as if you were reading a book. I can guarantee that if you're doing that for the first time, you will spot some surprising things that you may not have noticed before. Now let's look at the music again, but this time in a more organized way, and let's try to look for some patterns. If you download the free PDF for this lesson, you will find a handy reminder of what patterns can we see in the music. They may be rhythmic patterns, melodic patterns, there may be sections which are being repeated. So try to spot all that and also look for the places which don't quite follow any of the patterns, because these spots may be the one that will turn out to be a bit more tricky when you're practicing later. If you want to know more about spotting patterns in music, check out the previous episode of Live Harp Lesson, where I'm talking a bit more about that. Ideally, you should have all your markings in the score before you even think about playing anything. However, if you think any of them might be missing, or if some of your markings are not corresponding to what you're actually doing, for example, you're playing one note with third finger, but in your score it's still marked as the second finger, now it's time to sort everything out and make sure your markings are all clear to you. What I sometimes do if I'm using paper music is that I make a copy, a scan of the music that I print out later and where I put all my markings, because I usually put quite a lot of those inside the music. Then if the copy gets too busy, or if I can't see quite clearly what I've put in there, I can easily make another copy and organize my markings again to be clear, and then I can decide whether I want to leave some of them out or bring some more in, and so on. Now that I'm also using iPad, that's even easier, because I can easily wrap things out or save one version as a PDF and then use a clear version. Whatever method you go for, make sure that it works for you, and make sure that the fingerings, markings, pedals that you've got in there are really clear and consistent with what you will be doing when you will be physically playing. This is what many musicians consider the very essence of mental practice. It can be quite challenging, so be kind with yourself. It requires a lot of focus, so doing that even for a few minutes at the beginning can be quite tiring. Start with the music, that will make it a bit easier. Later, when you memorize certain sections of the piece, you will be able to do that from memory. But for now, just look at the notes that you can see in the score and imagine what it will feel like, what it will look like and sound like when you will be going through those notes with the harp. So for example, if you're about to play in the score, you see the notes G, F, E. You can imagine your three fingers on the strings, trying to see them moving while you're playing the notes, trying to feel what is it like to have three fingers on three neighboring strings. If you're working on some technical aspects, you can also try to reimagine the feeling of having elbows away from your body, comfortable space between thumb and other fingers, whatever you're currently working on. If you're working towards a performance, you may want to also imagine the movements that you will go through while walking on stage, taking a bow, sitting down at the harp, imagining what you will be thinking before you start playing. For more suggestions, head to the free PDF for today's lesson. I've also left some space for you to add your own, so have some fun doing that. Rewriting or copying the score with pen and paper can be quite time-consuming, but if you found the previous exercise challenging, you might find this one easier because it requires a bit different focus. For those of you who are thinking that it's quite a mechanical activity and what kind of benefits can it possibly give to you, I can assure you that by seeing your hand making markings on the paper, by feeling that physical movement of the pen on the paper, and by processing which note you're moving from a section of the music to the manuscript paper, you are actually creating a very real connection with the score and taking your knowledge of the piece to a whole different level, because you want to transfer everything, including fingerings, pedals, dynamic markings, and you're going to notice so much more than just by merely looking at the paper, either on its own or while playing. In today's PDF you will find a page of manuscript paper that you can print out and have a go at copying a section or even a whole piece. Try doing that. I think you can find it quite relaxing. I'm sure that there are quite a few of you who are familiar with the flashcards method, possibly from a field different than music. It can be very efficient in music too, especially if you're working on memorizing pieces. You can either make a copy of a piece and then cut it out in smaller bits, or you can use what you've written in the previous exercise where you were copying the score. Whichever method you go for, make sure that you always have your flashcards with you. You can either keep them in your wallet or on the back pocket of your phone, so you can use every free moment to revise a tiny bit of what you've previously prepared. You can also use the flashcards to revise music theory. If you're learning to read the music, you can keep all the notes that you've got problems remembering or recognizing and then move them around as you become more familiar. You can also add some other terms from music theory that you want to get familiar with. Make it work for you, make it yours. I hope you found this episode useful. Let me know in the comments which exercises have you tried and how did you find them. And as always, if you've got any suggestions for future episodes, do let me know. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye! What is mental practice? What is mental practice? What is mental practice? I need to find the definition. Play harp. Oh, sorry. As many sensations that come to you. I'm sure I forgot about something.